Good day, America. Stand by for news. Paul Harvey, good day.
We're back.
Wait a minute, that's a whole different show.
We missed that. We'll do that in our off time.
I'm Jack Rickard, and this is EVTV. I'm here with my compadre and consigliere, El Breno Noto.
Hey, good to be here, and it is actually Friday. We do Fridays every now and then.
We're hitting it by
We're
the
hitting
numbers.
the Fridays, that's right.
I had to
We
take
know
a
the
day
calendar.
and do a emergency run to Boston.
I know.
Pick up some people in the King Air, but I'm back.
Good.
And I
Good for you.
noticed that our Escalade project has gone on so long that we now can't remember what we're doing.
Exactly. Just
Someone-
bolt anything on it.
So, if you recall, we did a whole series on our electric heating system with a pump and using a
One of those on-demand systems.
on-demand
yeah.
system
Heating system,
and
yeah.
some contactors and so forth. I came back to find that Brian had installed one in a car. We had two, the one that I had made up, and then a fresh one that we could have used for a shower or something
That's
around
right.
here, but he installed the fresh one in the car.
It looks good, too.
Not only does it look good, but I got to looking at the pump and everything. I think we're going to use yours. You're going to have to move the contactors
To move
over.
it all in the other box.
Yeah, in
All right.
the other box. Yeah. So that's that. What's in the news?
Let's see, what we're going to talk. I think we had, some stuff, all of our friends that build electric cars, what we call as OEMs. I think that's some stuff we're going to talk about.
OEM stuff. Let's do.
Yeah, we'll talk about how cool electric cars are, I guess.
For the last 3 episodes, I've been standing here trying to figure out why the Volt is selling.
We have, yeah, it's selling, yeah.
We've said all along that the premium that they're asking for these cars makes them unattractive.
Right. Oh, absolutely. 20, 30,000 bucks is crazy for a
Here's a
economy
Chevy
car.
Cruise that's $16,000, $18,000, $20,000 loaded, and here's a Volt for $42,000.
That's a lot.
Suddenly
That's a big
they're
premium.
selling them.
Really? Yeah.
Through the magic of high-speed photography,
We've decoded it.
I think we've decoded it. Would you believe they're doing some lease deals?
Oh, really? Okay.
Now,
All right.
what would a $42,000 car cost on a lease, Brian?
I would say 400, 450 a month,
$450
maybe.
a month,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah.
Well, if you can scrape up $2,529 down
Okay. Okay.
and $260 a month for 36 months, you can have a Volt.
Really? 260 bucks a month? Oh,
Yeah,
man.
that's what they're doing.
So what's the cash all in on that then?
$11,889 in 3 years.
That's more like leasing a cruise.
It's
yeah.
like leasing a cruise.
Yeah, it's like
Well,
leasing a
now
cruise.
people are trying them.
Yeah, people are trying them out.
And when you lease it for 36 months, of course, I guess you have the option of buying it at the end, and I don't know what that price
Right,
would
right.
be. But in the meanwhile, you don't have to worry about maintenance and batteries.
No, and they can report they sold a car.
And they can report they sold the car.
Right.
Isn't America great? Where up is down and black is white and
Down is up.
down is up and criminy, it's just I love it.
I know.
It should be cheaper. And
yeah,
so
we said that,
the
yeah.
Volt is actually quite affordable, and $260 a month, that's like a $25,000 car.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and no big get in, 2,500 bucks. Yeah.
And you're not paying on the gasoline.
That's not bad.
I think this will catch on.
Yeah, that's not a bad deal actually. Yeah.
I kind of like one at that price.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Let's
good
see
deal.
if one of the local dealers is handling those.
Yeah, they are. We've got a few around town.
Is that
Some-
right?
Some of the docks.
Hey,
have-
if I can get a lease like that, hell, I'll spring for that.
all right, we'll go check it out.
Sure.
Okay.
That's fantastic. Ford
Okay.
is up in the dozens of Ford, what is it?
Oh, the Focus.
Focus.
They must be exhausted. Manufacturing them, yes.
Actually, they're making some commitment. And this is how you actually do long-range planning instead of, compliance cars for California. They have established the Electrification Center for Excellence.
Oh, okay.
And they've taken a building in Dearborn, 285,000 square feet, and made it for electric and advanced technologies.
That sounds like there's some commitment there.
Hired 60 new engineers.
Wow, okay.
And apparently think they're putting $135 million into that.
All right, that's some money. I mean, they're making a commitment to the
Well,
electric
I
car,
mean,
whatever that means. Yeah.
Again, the Volt was probably, I think somebody's fleshed out the number 750 million.
Oh yeah, yeah. What it
to get
to
that
get the
started.
volt out. Yeah.
But and that's not unusual. But 135 million, that's a significant skunk works,
Right.
I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's going on. Tesla, I'd like to have one episode in a row where we don't talk about Tesla, but I don't know how to do that.
I know. They're busy.
They're busy fellows.
They're busy.
Elon has taken his salary at Tesla. What do you think that might be?
I don't know.
What would the CEO of Tesla warrant there?
I mean, what, millions? I don't know.
$33,800 a year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he's not taking too much off the table there.
Okay.
Of course, he's putting a lot of it in.
A lot of it in, yeah.
But $5.7 million in stock options at $31 vesting over 10 years.
Okay.
And based on hitting basically a $43 stock price within some time, and hitting these production numbers and
so
things,
forth. Yeah.
So there's a lot of
Right. There's a package behind that. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of performance goals
Right.
involved in this,
Yeah.
and vesting over 10 years
Right.
type thing.
Right.
But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
There's a group who have located a building in Long Island. This used to be called Wardenclyffe in Shoreham, New York. That was one of Tesla's laboratories.
Oh, really? Where Nikolai himself worked, huh?
Uh-huh. And
Wow.
one of them, I recall, I read several books about Edison and Tesla and so forth. I think one of them burned down. But this one was one of his laboratories, and it's become available, the building, for $1.6 million. And the state has said that they'll put up $800,000 in matching money. In other words, you got to raise $800,000.
Yep.
And they got Elon to contribute to that.
Oh, cool. Okay.
He said it wasn't really an appropriate use of Tesla money, but he could personally contribute to that.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
so, a very good possibility there's going to be a Tesla museum on Long Island in an original Tesla laboratory building.
Cool.
And funded by Elon Musk, if not Tesla. And so that's Ford, Tesla. Oh, let's see. That's kind of the big guys.
Yeah.
I got a new battery in this week. We have not tested it yet, and it's not terribly new, but it's a new version from High Power.
Okay.
We have used high power cells, and I would say we've used them reasonably successonly.
Yeah, we haven't had to do much with the ones we've used.
In the green van.
Green van. Yeah.
My daughter drives this. She calls it the Jinky van. And Jinky means something, but I don't know
I have
what.
no idea. Yeah.
It's something that the 20-somethings call things that are kind of cool and kind of junky, but they're jinky.
But they're jinky. Okay.
And what we have in there is these 200 amp hour high power cells. Now, I found them somewhat inconsistent in capacity in those days,
Right.
but these are several years old.
While. What, 4 or 5 years?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they're white, which makes them look dirty on arrival.
Just by
and then they get dirtier looking.
When you empty the crate.
But my big bias against them was the terminal screw. It had the same M8 size terminal, but it comes with a very soft aluminum washer and an even softer and quite short aluminum screw that's so light it is clearly made from melted down soda
Yeah,
cans
soda can. There was somebody's been
with
recycling.
a slotted head.
Yeah, that you can't help
Head
but strip out.
And this was how the Sadens
Yeah.
and the High Powers were originally, and they're just a horror. This is not the way to connect to a battery. Their theory is that you'll strip out the head before you mess up the thread, I guess. And my theory
maybe.
is you'll screw the whole thing up before you ever get it in a vehicle.
That's right.
And but we actually did use these batteries.
We did,
I
yes.
got some black hex head bolts, I think.
Yeah, we did.
Not
Some
hex head
M8s,
bolts, socket bolts.
some M8s, yeah.
Some M8 socket cap screws, and put together the Jinky van, as she calls it. And I have to say, she hasn't had much difficulty with it and drives it all the time.
All right. It's always, I always see it out there running around, yeah.
So they work. They're kind of the low-cost end of the world on lithium-ion cells, and they've had the cheapest possible hardware, and of course the white case, which I just can't work with. Here's by contrast our deluxe Calb CA series, which I just love. But this is what I got from a viewer this week, and it's called their CT series, which means cute type. Remember, the head of Calb's marketing in China wanted to have a Calb cost a less bill.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a Chinese effort at American sloganeering here that you just have to appreciate. But CT is the cute type.
Ah, okay.
But they've gone
Very
from
cute,
one
too.
extreme to the other. If we did use any of these batteries, we'd have to redesign our battery strap system. Now we have an enormous terminal, an enormous but still soft aluminum washer, a ordinary lock washer, and an M14 bolt that's again
still
too
short.
short.
Still
You need
kinda
a.
short.
We use these on the Escalade,
Escalade,
on the Thunder Sky 400s. You need a 16. This is about a 10.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And but it all works pretty much. And now we have an enormous terminal with an enormous bolt. But I got to tell you, I kind of like the look here. And we haven't tested the cell. Well, we're gonna. This is a 160 amp hour cell. This is a 180 amp hour cell. This is a 200. And they still have all those sizes from High Power. But this M14 is a big enough bolt, for example, we could drill a hole in the top of the bolt and mount stuff.
Mount something, yeah.
Thermal wires or, stuff. It's big enough. It's obviously going to be a very strong connection, particularly if we yank that off, put in the goofy washer, and put braided straps with Nord locks on it.
Yeah.
And these M14s are truly just a bigger, better bolt, even than our little M8s. I mean, our M8s look weeny by comparison, and our terminals over here look weeny by comparison. And so I like this look for high current applications. Now this cell, ostensibly 5C. So 800 amps out of a 160 amp hour cell. The other thing that's kind of interesting is it's shorter than the 180 here and narrower, and but thicker by 3/4 of an inch. But in building a box, I mean, I guess you get less cells in when they're thicker, but the box dimensions would be very different, and I'm attracted to that dimension.
Yeah, it takes less overhead. I mean, you could fit them in a spot where you don't
go
have as much
about
height.
a box about, certainly 10.5 would do it, but you could might get away with 10 inches and be able to run cables and stuff in there under the lid.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And that's kind of interesting. And 6 and 3/4, I believe, wide. Right at a little over 6.5, 6 and 5/8, I'd say, wide, and so that's got some interesting box possibilities, and you're up in a useful size, 160 amp hours.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
so
that could have been something we might have been able to use in the Cobra project, was we had problems with height.
we did, and again in the Speedster,
Yeah.
that's
Yep,
an
we've always
interesting
have an issue, yeah.
size, frankly.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, nice. Okay.
And
So we'll
so-
have to test that out then.
We're going to test those batteries and take a look.
see what we get, yeah.
Speaking of batteries,
Uh-huh.
we had a little interesting
Did
incident.
we have an incident?
Let's go not to the battery lab, but to the shop and see what has befallen the EVTV now.
All right.
That I only wish we had on camera.
Yeah.
Let's take a look. Reno,
I'm
getting where
for a day.
I'm getting where I love the smell of burning insulation in the morning.
And possibly some, what is this, oak or some
The
cherry?
sweet pear smell.
Yeah, that's right.
LiFePO 4 solvent.
Yum. And then
Man.
just a patina of soot in the shop, huh?
Here's my little voltmeter that you may recall.
Yeah, it's even
And
smaller.
here's my JLD 404 and a charred bench top.
Yes.
My spaghetti wiring. This is what comes from playing with battery management systems, even on the bench.
Even on the bench.
This I wanted to show you. As you know, we shamelessly show all our failures, so you may not fail.
That's right. So you'll know what it looks like just in case, or don't do it at all.
This was an A123 battery that I repeatedly have done this to. Brian has his hand on a very high-tech piece of equipment, your 12-volt
Rollabout charger, yeah.
charger. And I had a 12-volt battery, if you'll recall, made from A123 cells. 6 of them in parallel.
We can still count them.
That we used on our Hellwig motor test on the things. The battery would gradually bleed down over a period of days because of the load from the voltmeters.
On the voltmeters.
So once a week I would come by and put the 12 volt, which was right there, just clip it on. I had it clipped to the shunt, and this didn't use the contactor, of course, which I should have, and just put it on charge. And
Harmless.
immediately went and did something else. Since it takes hours, you just
Right.
forget.
You just, yeah, it's
And
just in
what
here.
happened was the battery expanded. The cells, when they're overcharged, swell, and that's and that bust open my little pack. And I have another battery I can show you here, where that's the case. That happened on Wednesday.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
And I noticed it while I was here. Of course, my fear is unattended fires. I don't mind
Right.
them if I'm there to
If
play
you're
with
there-
them.
Right, to witness them.
We get out a bratwurst, some marshmallows. It's not that big a deal when
Video
we're standing
camera
here. Brian's even laid in fire extinguishers for fear
That's right,
for
just
my
in
life.
case, just in case, guys.
Untouched, but uninterested. We came in Tuesday of the following week. Six
Yeah,
days
six
later.
days later, yes, yes.
To find this. The bench pretty much burned almost through a 2-inch maple top. The cables melted together. A switch melted.
Yes.
2 meters charred, and the battery completely emoliated. You know what was obvious, and all that plastic burnt off completely.
It's gone, yeah. Yep.
In what must have been a very hot fire right next to my Cadillac Escalade we've been working on for 2 years.
Yes.
And I don't know and can't look as to how much money we have in it.
Yeah, we're not going to do any addition.
And this happened overnight,
Yeah.
unattended.
Yes.
6 days later.
Yes, yes.
We have a viewer who emailed me, and I can't remember, can't find the email, who has 3 cells that had swollen up, and the other 33 had not, and they were in 2 separate boxes, and wanted to know why. I don't know why, but get them out of the car. because apparently they're a fire hazard.
Yeah, 6 days later. That's amazing.
6 days later
Yeah.
and unattended.
Right.
And this with A123 cells. And so I thought I would share that with you. There is a safety issue
Yeah, it's
with
gotta
them.
be
These had
something, yeah.
been overcharged,
Yeah.
had snapped, crackled, and popped and busted open the casing.
Yeah.
I disconnected power and walked away.
Man,
But the interesting thing is it was 6 days later when it caught fire.
that's amazing. I mean,
That's not good.
that's not good at all. No.
And
When you think it's safe to go back
into the pool.
in the pool, it's not.
It's not, and I mean, it burned up everything around it. This is, I don't even know what
I didn't
this
even know
is.
what that is. Yeah. Yeah, we lost a couple of bridges here for some. Yeah, we lost a lot of stuff here.
What was this?
What was that? Just like a place with a little fuse holder or a little bridge, I think.
Fuse holder?
Yeah.
Yeah, just my usual pile of debris just got burnt completely up by this battery. So they burn very hot, and they take pretty much everything with them that's close. Fortunately, this did not get out of hand, but Charlie came in Tuesday morning and said the place was completely full of smoke.
That's what he said. It was completely full of smoke.
And we have huge fans in here because of the heat, and it still took him an hour or two to blow
Get it
all
out. Yeah, to blow it all out of here.
And so I wanted to make you aware of this. Speaking of which, we're not alone. There's been a second Fisker fry.
That's what I read. Yeah. In what, 3 weeks or months? I can't remember. It's happened pretty quick, though, hasn't it?
Randy Berger's Fisker. I pulled into a parking lot and it burst into flames. Let's take a look.
All right. Oh, man.
Well, there you go.
And yeah, the problem is, you're right. We didn't have the camera. We weren't even here to watch it. I mean,
No,
what fun was that?
And this is the horror of battery fires and things. Is the unattended version.
Yes.
Rudy Berger's Fisker fry. At least he was there and called the fire department.
to call them.
And they put out, so had that been in his garage, it would have burned up the whole car and then the whole house.
And what happened to his car? Is it a Fisker that just spontaneously combusted, huh?
Yeah.
Like a little old lady in a rocking chair in spontaneous human combustion?
They don't know what happened, but they're sure what didn't happen, and that's anything that would put them in a bad light.
Right, anything that would cause a recall or
Now,
anything like that?
Inherently, if you don't know what did happen, you don't know what didn't happen.
Right.
You may think you know what didn't happen, but that doesn't
You don't,
mean
right? It didn't rule out everything that you think
right.
didn't happen. yeah.
Until you figure out what did happen, you don't know nothing. And but I find it interesting, their reaction every time. On the first one, they tried to do a character assassination on the guy who was the victim.
Oh, on the owner?
Yeah, that maybe he did it himself on purpose.
What?
You know, it's this company is the biggest doofus in EVdom.
He didn't like the car that much that he'd set it on fire?
Right. Well, they imply that they weren't ruling that out.
Oh, Jesus.
You know,
All I wanted was
they
a
handled this a little better. At least they didn't claim that Rudy was. However, Rudy
lighter fluid.
did not respond in kind. He said, frankly, the car drove like a tank.
Really? That was his
He
evaluation?
wants his Carrera back.
Okay. All right. It's not quite as nimble as a Porsche, huh?
They've been still seeking oxygen to maintain life.
Yes.
I can't find any sign of much in the way of sales. Somebody figured out that they've built 2,000 cars, found one with a VIN number of 1972.
Really?
But they say they're coming up on $1 billion invested in this company.
I think so, and I had read a report that one of the major investors in Fisker, Reuters had picked it up, was saying they needed $150 million just to tie them over, which is...
In for a penny, in for a pound,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, exactly. So it's I don't know what's going on, but they're...
Tom Lasorda apparently had nothing to do with baseball. He was a Chrysler executive. Right. I had this all wrong.
Wasn't the Dodgers manager?
I had this all wrong. He was from Chrysler. He was named their CEO just last February.
Yes, yeah.
This month they have replaced him. Last month, Tony Pudswat, I call it,
Poswat, okay.
of GM. He headed the Volt program in reason since Bob Lutz left.
Yeah, yeah.
He's actually the guy that coined the term range anxiety.
Really? Yeah, I guess it's floating around. You never think about who actually came up with it. Okay, okay.
Last month, he announced he was retiring to spend more time with the family.
Yeah, 32 years or something at GM, yeah.
And this month, he announced that he was joining Fisker.
Had
who
enough
I
time
guess
with the
is
family.
And a lot of times, families are like that. You miss them, you want to be with them. You
Hang out with them
work,
for a month.
But you go home for a couple weeks and... At the end of 2 weeks, it's sort of a family decision that you go back to work and get the hell out of the house.
So keep taking your medication and go to work.
That's right. So this is all very believable.
That's right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't think you can save Fisker. Fisker is walking dead. The A123 deal apparently went live. They said they were going to close on that between now and the end of the year. They met between Wednesday and the next Wednesday.
Oh, really? Yeah, I knew we were talking fiscal years and everything.
It's up to $465 million, and I think it's sort of okay. Now you got to undo it if you want to regulate it.
Right.
So that was it.
Oh, geez, that went fast. Wow.
Brian and I both lived in Colorado for a while. One of the interesting things they have there is Pikes Peak.
Yeah,
it's
just
tourist
south of us. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful.
Now, I'm from the Midwest. Every wide spot in the road in the Midwest has a rock with a plaque on it saying that Elias, Lewis stopped here in 1833.
Abe Lincoln slept here
to take a pee and thought the scene was nice, and so
jotted it down in his diary.
Spent the night here,
and
right. So we have a rock.
Yeah, everywhere there's something. Yeah.
Any ditch, not a creek, but a ditch in the state has a guardrail in front of it, so you don't go in the ditch. Ditch is only 4 feet wide and 3 feet deep, but we're not going to have any cars go in.
That's right. It's a no ditch zone.
I get out to Colorado, I go down to Pikes Peak, and I drive up this hill.
Yep.
And it took me an hour, by the way. That's not necessarily the best time that's been done.
Yeah, that's right.
On a gravel road.
Yes.
That has 156 turns in it, by the way.
It does have 156 turns, yes.
And at any one of them, on the non-mountain side,
like the blue sky side?
The blue sky side, there's a 6,000 to 7,000 foot drop off, and nothing between you and that but sort of a rounded off crumbling edge.
That's right. And then,
there's no guardrails there. And then you get to the top, you would expect to see the Zebulon Pike Museum, the Zebulon Pike Ferris wheel, the Zebulon Pike bumper cars, and the Zebulon Pike restaurant
and a pose
cafe.
too. At least a bronze statue with a pose.
And a big fiberglass statue of Zebulon Pike. There isn't anything up there.
No,
there's a rock.
There's a rock.
With a plate on the rock
Yeah.
that says in 1922 we tested one of the first
Wasn't it the
aircraft
engines?
engines.
Yeah, at high altitude, yeah.
Yeah. So they took it up on the top of the mountain to see if it would run,
Yeah.
to see if they could put it in an airplane
Yeah, that's
in
right.
1922.
Yeah. That is what's up there, yeah.
That's what's up there.
Yeah.
There might have been a geodetic survey pin.
Probably a pin, yeah. I missed that one too.
Because the thing is 14,110 feet in the air.
Yeah, you're above the tree line.
We call in Colorado, we call them 14ers.
Yeah.
And that's mountains that are above 14,000 feet, which it's difficult to breathe up there.
Yeah, yeah.
12.42 mile road.
Yes.
156 turns.
Yep.
And they have had, since the beginning of auto racing, nearly 100 years ago, 96 years ago to be
Yeah.
exact, had the Pikes Peak Run, where they do timed. It's a race, but you don't race against each other. My God, it'd be raining cars off both sides. But you do the run and compare times.
Yeah, it's a timed run, yeah.
And they
yeah.
have done 90 of these in 96 years.
Yes. Yeah, I think it might be the second oldest auto race in the United States. I mean, it's a granddaddy.
Yeah, no, this is a tradition.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. They
Yeah.
they don't really, for some reason, have the TV coverage
They don't.
and stuff. But
I tried. I couldn't find anything.
I think it's probably just hard to cover on TV because it's 12 miles
It's
long
12
and
miles.
156 turns.
And there's no place to put a camera.
Right?
You fall off the edge.
Yeah.
Watch that first step.
But, I mean, it is a historic race, and
Yeah.
people get kind of kooky about it. There is one contestant who, this year, 2012, was his 38th
Oh,
race.
really? Oh, my goodness.
And his son did his 17th.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's like a family affair.
Yeah. Wow.
And the trick is to get to the top at all. This is like the dancing bear. It isn't how well the bear dances. This is that you get a bear to
Can't
dance.
dance at all. That's right.
And so the trick is not really how fast you did it, but did you get to the top without your car breaking down?
Yeah, without and survive. Yeah. Wow.
In recent years, this has almost ceased to be a race. A man named Nobuhiro Tajima runs a Japanese equivalent of Summit Racing in Japan.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. What's his nickname? The Monster.
Well, no, the company's name
yeah.
is Monster.
Monster. Yeah. Yeah.
And they sell performance auto parts. Mail order. They're Summit
Yeah,
Racing.
like Summit for Japan. Yeah.
For Japan.
Yeah.
This guy has won this race 11 times.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a legend. Yeah.
11 out of the 90.
Yeah.
He's won.
Yeah.
He's pretty serious about it.
Yeah.
And he's 62 years
Yeah, he
old.
is, yeah.
He's won the last 5 in a row. Last time in a Suzuki.
He was his gasoline powered was a Suzuki. I'm not familiar with the model because I think it's a Japanese model Suzuki. Yeah.
He showed up this year in E-Runner Pikes Peak Special that they've tried to keep deadly secret. I've got a little bit of video of this thing being built.
Oh, okay.
Let's take a look.
All right.
So it turns out,
That's cool. That's a nasty looking car.
well, they blurred out
I
a lot
know,
of
isn't
it.
that something?
And then I'm told even at the race, the technical inspection, he was furious over because it was
Oh,
open
he had
to
to
the
he
public.
had to unveil it.
And then he had his engineers. This guy, and I understand this is a couple $1 million car. He had 27 engineers from Japan on site at Pikes Peak.
Wow, that's a contingent.
This
That's-
is a
contingent, yeah.
purpose-built race car,
Yeah.
like a Formula One race car.
Absolutely, yeah.
Carbon fiber body, aluminum space frame, all-wheel drive motors. As you saw in the video, it actually uses the Evo motors, and it has 4 of them.
Yeah, right. Give it all-wheel drive. Yeah.
And it's got all-wheel drive and 2 Reinhardt controllers.
Okay. Okay.
Let's take a
some
look
Reinhardts.
at one of his practice runs. So what's that camera that's the sponsor?
GoPro.
GoPro.
Yeah.
This is changing motorsports.
Isn't that something, the views you get?
I
Oh,
mean,
man.
that's as good a video
Yeah.
as we've ever had of a race thing.
Yeah.
And so you see him going all the way up Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
Because of this GoPro camera.
Yeah, that's cool. That really has
and
changed things.
We've got to master that ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what a breathtaking
Yeah.
view of it. That was a practice run. Unfortunately or tragically, on the day of the actual run, his motor burned out, not burnt out, just burnt out, but started sparking and smoking and caught on fire.
Yeah, he was, I think, maybe less than a mile in, to the run. Oh, man.
And so that was the thing. We had another participant that was kind of interesting for me, and that was Michael Bream of EV West.
EV West.
EV West is one of our proteges. Matt Hauber worked with us for 6 months.
Yeah.
And
gonna come and
he wanted to go
intern
to
for a
San Diego
couple
and
of
start a
weeks.
conversion shop, and I kept telling him, well, go. And he'd go, well, I don't have money. Well, I don't have a woolen cap. Well, I have my shoes, I don't have the same color on each side. Matt, go to San Diego and start a conversion shop. He went out and hooked up with Michael Bream, who'd done well in the solar installation
Right, doing
business.
solar installations, yeah.
And Matt proved rather emphatically to Michael that he could make a Chevy S10 go like a bat out of hell. So they opened up a conversion shop, started selling components, and converted a 1995 BMW M3
Yes, yeah.
into a conversion car. It's street legal.
Yeah.
It's not like a dedicated
No,
race
it's
car.
not, it's not purpose built, no.
And he managed to finish the race. In fact, he finished it in 11 minutes and 58 seconds and scored 54th
Yeah, 54th, yeah.
of what was the total?
There
enrollment?
were 180, I believe, race participants. 200, close to 200. I think 182 participants, and he was
54th.
54th. Yeah, and only, I think, 2 minutes off of the winning time. I mean, for from a really Reese Millen in a purpose-built race car.
He turned a lot of heads out there. At first, there were 7 electric cars total.
There were 7, yeah. Yep.
But of all the street cars, vintage cars and converted street cars, he beat almost all of them.
Yeah,
Most of the cars, there weren't 6 or 8 cars of the 53 that weren't purpose-built Formula One style
Right.
race cars or motorcycles.
Or motorcycles or quads, absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
And so he he caused quite a stir out there. Let's take a look at one of his some of his practice work, because he's got some cameras too.
Good.
And again, it's a little breathtaking.
That's nice. And you know, and Michael drove the car himself. They did have a guy, a NASCAR racer who raced in the Sprint Cup Series. Syed, I think, is his name, and he was supposed to run. Professional driver. He's been in the 24 Hours of Daytona, NASCAR. I think has 8 or 10 top 10 finishes in NASCAR Sprint Cups. Their original driver.
The Peak run kind of got.
Well, there was the fires. It's usually around the 4th of July weekend, and they had those massive fires down there in the south, so it ran, what, a month late?
Yeah, August 12th, and that was a conflict date for
one of the series
for the race car driver
that he was in, yeah.
And so Michael, who's, you know, driven in races before, it's not like he's never been in one, but he's not a serious race car driver, but he drove the car himself. So here's basically a home-built converted car with a guy who owns it.
That's right.
And knows how to shift.
That's right. Maybe a savant, we don't know, yeah.
And scores 54th out of 182, and really a very respectable. He got to the top, and all the vintage guys, you know, that have the old Cougars and Cobras and Mustangs
right. That's
and
will be there, yeah.
They couldn't believe it. They're all in the 12s.
Right, and he turned, I think it was 11:58.
Yeah. And so this was actually kind of a thing. More to the point of the electrics, he was the only DC motor in the game.
Oh, everything was running AC motors. Okay.
Here's a little interesting thing between him and Hauber. Matt is very mechanically, I would say, talented, and he's a sharp kid. He sort of lives in his own fantasy world, but
that's okay.
Neat guy, but
the real world's not that good.
No background in electronics at all.
Right.
The kid couldn't put two batteries in a flashlight and get it right for the third try when he showed up here.
But he could balance batteries when he left.
He's battery balanced and mother lover. And truly understood them in the from having done all those hours. Right. He knows the feel of the battery. See, they spring, they reflex, and if they don't, there's something wrong. You can, Matt or I can play with a battery for a few minutes and say, there's something that's not right.
Something's wrong in there.
Well, what's wrong with it? Well, it's not a good battery.
Yeah.
Well, why? What's not good?
It needs to be replaced. That's all I know.
You need to replace that one. When you charge it, it doesn't fall down right, and when you discharge it, it doesn't spring back up right. What do you mean right? Like 3,000 other batteries.
Right, yeah. Like they've all been doing.
But so Matt wants him an AC drive. He's trying to get Michael to buy him a
Matt,
$40,000 or $50,000 worth of hardware.
Yeah, putting something together.
And it's really poo-pooing it. It sort of missed some of the point here. They could have gone faster, but they had put in kind of a cunning infrared temperature sensor on the commutators.
Okay.
And he had an analog display of both commutators going up.
Okay.
And George Hamstra from NetGain had told him 350 degrees Fahrenheit's kind of the end of the trail.
That's
guys,
it. Okay.
On the commutator. So he could have actually done a little better time if he'd let the temperature go.
Let the temperature go a little more. Okay.
And DC series motors are hard. It's very attractive, the AC motors, because a lot of them can be water cooled.
Right, yeah.
Water cooled is a cool thing because water is about 3,600 times better at conducting heat than air is.
Than air, absolutely, yeah.
But it's not a panacea. And I'm going to kind of explain why this happened and what happened. Nikolai Tesla aside, there is not a way to make more torque in a motor than a series DC motor.
No, they're monsters, yeah. Torque monsters.
You're setting up the motor power, the torque comes from the interaction of two fields. And their interaction is based on their coupling and the distance between them.
Right, the gap, yeah.
And the intensity of the field, which is a function of the current through it.
Sure.
In a series DC motor. you run the same current through the field windings in the stator, the case of the motor, and then it goes through the brushes through the commutator.
Yeah, the same.
It's the same flow. It's a series flow, and back to the batteries or the controller. All motors are an attempt not to do that.
Yeah, right, right.
And to get away from the brushes, and the commutator, and the disadvantage of that heat location, that brush wear, and the loss through the brushes. Right. And there's some cunning ways of doing that. Tesla invented what was termed the polyphase AC motor. And it would really rotate the field in the field windings.
Right. Yeah.
The rotor had no commutator. It was it had coils that the rotation of the stator, the field, polyphase fields, would induce currents in those coils, and that caused it to interact between those two fields. But the level of the field in the rotor is a fraction, a tiny fraction of what's in the stator.
Of what's in the stator, yeah.
And in fact, aligned, it doesn't even work. It won't move at all. It would
just sit there, yeah.
It has to be out of alignment and have an error to have it
pushed along.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you have a problem starting an AC motor. You have a cogging problem going from one neutral place to the next. And the way they address that is to, as we saw on our MESDEA motor, have a twist to the coils in the rotor.
Yeah, in the rotor.
That actually emphasizes the coupling, but changes the phase. And so it's at different places on the length of the rotor.
Keep moving along, yeah.
And so it's easy to start and it eliminates the cogging. The rotor always lags the rotation of the field, and that's called slip.
Little slip, yeah.
And that slip is not a problem. That's what makes the motor go.
Yeah, it needs to slip to move.
And so it's always just a little bit behind. A permanent magnet motor, of course, gets its rotor field from the permanent magnets.
From the magnets, yes.
And that's even more attractive because you can have more flexible configurations and lighter weight. That's not an advantage going up 12 miles of pike speed.
It's that last 11 and a half that'll get you.
Here's what happens with permanent magnet motors and why I don't like them. They're typically neodymium is the active material. And we have some magnets that we use to demonstrate the force of fields and magnetism to people because you can't actually pull them apart.
You can't pull them apart now.
And they're only this big.
Yeah.
The magnets have got to be very good. You hear about China and rare earth materials and stuff. Neodymium is one of them.
It's one of them.
And so that's what they're talking about. Its fatal flaw, and they have gotten better, is that they fail catastrophically and unpredictably in the presence of heat.
Okay.
When you get a permanent magnet to a certain temperature, it's a little less permanent than they may have described to you.
It's almost permanent magnet.
And it demagnetizes.
Oh, man.
Now, what would happen while you're pumping current through these polyphase windings of the AC motor? That's interactive from its field with the field in the thing, which resists that. And so you're transferring power to the shaft through those fields.
Through the fields, yeah.
If the rotor field collapses,
Okay.
the permanent magnet got to be like a permanent
like a piece
brick.
of iron, just a piece of metal.
Suddenly,
Oh boy.
there's no load on the field windings.
Yeah.
and you have a massive jump in current.
Uh-oh. We know what happens when that happens.
We even like it. I like the smell of burning
That's right.
insulation.
Every time
in
we
the
can
morning.
find it, that's right.
Where and how. The AC motors tend to be higher voltage, and,
Yes.
that does get them higher RPMs, but you have to have finer windings,
Mm-hmm.
and that decreases their current carrying capability.
And all of a sudden you're pumping a ton of current into them.
And so this is a normal, and you run into this in all of electronics. After all the research has been done and you're designing, you get down to a trade-off. There's a trade-off between the length and the diameter.
Mm-hmm.
There's a trade-off between the a number of windings and the thickness of the windings,
right.
and the voltage and the current.
And the current, yep,
You wind up knowing the limits. You can trade them, but you can't make them go away.
Right. You try to pick the best options.
And so everything is a trade-off, and and so you'll see AC motors tend to be higher in voltage and lower in current.
Right.
It's not because they don't want to handle the current, that's the trade they made.
Right.
And but with permanent magnets motors, if the magnets demagnetize, like let's say you took your car up 12.42 miles on one day with your GoPro,
Yeah. It looked good.
and it looked really good, and then you did it the second day, and it looked really good, and now it's race day,
And about a mile in.
but about a mile in, there's not enough field from the permanent magnets for the controller and the windings and the stator to not have a huge jump in current because there's nothing to turn against.
Nothing turned, yeah. Wow.
It's like taking the load suddenly off of, if you will simply rev your net gain Warp 9 up to about 4,000 RPM and be pulling hard on a hill and just very quickly put in the clutch, it ceases to be an electric motor and becomes a Claymore mine designed to take people out at waist level.
That's right. Cast
With the
iron
shrapnel.
everywhere. That's right.
And really, this is exactly what happened with Mr.
Oh, with Tajima's motors?
I'm guessing,
Yeah, but it could be,
But
yeah,
as
yeah.
you know, I can make shit up. And
Yeah,
it
it
really
sounds
is
good.
usually better than what really happened, and closer. After months of investigation, they'll find out that this was a technically flawed, but actually prescient description of reality.
Who was that masked man?
Who was that masked man? So, Michael's going to be in the Baja 1000 in November.
Okay.
And
That's a grueling
I
race.
can tell you, talking to him, technically their car had, the motors were not precisely stock. He did his own brush mount
Oh, okay.
on it.
Okay.
They were twin 11s, and they devised kind of a cunning, we're going to try to get them for a store, mount between the two motors.
Okay.
And a mount with a spline shaft to the transmission,
Okay.
all to save that link where we lost our fans.
Right. Yeah.
Same problem. And but two 11-inch motors, modified net gain Warp 11s, and an Evnetic Shiva. Although he said really, by the time they got it all tuned up and working the way he wanted it to, they were using about 1,100 amps through those motors.
And that's, yeah, okay.
And at some point, more is just more.
Right. Yeah.
But the critical issue here is this man scored very well to the wide approbation of the people that had run in this race sometimes for many years.
Yeah.
He didn't have probably 50,000. Like everything,
Right.
it depends on what you count.
Right, exactly.
That you built 3 things and only used 1.
Yeah.
Do you count the expense of all 3?
I guess you could save them for another day.
Basically a $50,000
Yeah,
car
yeah.
that anybody could build using parts that anybody can buy.
Yeah, no secret sauce.
And he got beat by people that in one case had 27 on-site engineers, a carbon fiber aluminum space frame body sponsored by a company that makes auto parts.
Yeah.
It's got to be a $2.5 or $3 million operation
Yeah,
for that
probably
one car.
for that one run. Yeah.
Against Michael's $50,000 junker BMW.
Yeah. Yeah. That ran within a couple of minutes of the fastest guy out there.
No, actually, the fastest guy out there didn't finish.
Yeah, right. I guess.
Michael
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, that's right.
See, this gets
Yeah,
deeper
that's right.
than you think. How about 27 engineers from Japan with thumb up pants
I wonder what happened.
watching Boss Man roll in DOA
Yeah.
on the first
Smoking
mile.
motors, yeah. Oh, man.
And by the way, by all accounts, this Nobuhiro Tajima is a perfect gentleman, a warm and charismatic and
Really?
very
Okay,
nice
nice.
guy,
Oh, cool.
and didn't have a bad word to say about anybody. Just a little bit secretive about what was under the carbon fiber.
Okay.
But anyway,
He wanted to go for another overall win.
I think we ought to have something in this race next year, Brain.
All right.
Michael.
There's no guardrails?
Michael thinks. Yeah, you're driving. I ain't. Michael thinks that this is going to be taken over by electrics.
It may, I guess, altitude. Boy, you're putting out a lot less horsepower. Your ability for that engine to breathe is kind of serious at altitude. Like this may be perfect race for electric cars.
Yeah, electric car doesn't care.
Right.
There is the heat
Driver
issue.
does, yeah.
The continuous application of current
Yeah, for
is
10 minutes
difficult
or 11
on an 11 minutes at full current. I mean,
Yeah.
you're like stabbing on the brakes and then hitting it again 156 times.
Yeah.
Is very difficult on an electric motor, and probably the DC motor has an advantage in some ways as far as developing torque. However, the AC motors have an advantage with the liquid cooling. I have an idea as to how to cool a DC motor, and had been asked to think about this before by several people who would care, and Matt and I had talked about it quite a bit.
Okay.
We wanted to immerse the whole motor in mineral oil and just simply run it underwater, and that actually is not entirely crazy.
Yeah, you can
but
do that.
There's some issues. I think that the main point of heat, and all of this is about localized heat. Heat is just heat. It's just a form of energy. If you contain it in a very small areas where it gets to be a problem.
Right.
And I think the point of problem on a DC series motor is the commutator. The commutator is connected to a shaft that's an excellent conductor of heat. Not as good as the copper, but still good. And we have for many, many decades, probably one of the earliest applications for electric motors was as a water pump. And what you do is put a seal around the shaft and have a separate body for the fluid with an impeller. And you do have to change the seal bearing occasionally, or they leak.
Okay. Yeah.
And but that's how you build the pump.
Yeah.
If we put an impeller on the aux shaft of the NetGain, a Warp 11, and built a pump that was flush up against the end plate,
Okay, so touching that, okay.
and had an enclosure and had an inlet and an outlet, what we have built is a pump. And if we hook that up to a heat exchanger and a tank where we could fill it with 50% glycol water solution, we have water cooled the motor with a deep heat sink on the end cap on one end. But most importantly, adding the mass of the impeller to that shaft and bathing it in glycol, it's going to suck heat out of that shaft and away from that commutator.
Into that water,
As it
yeah.
turns out, the commutator end and the aux shaft end are the same end.
Same end, yeah.
And so it would add 3 or 4 inches to the length of the motor, which is not a good thing. This wouldn't work in the series twin thing, but on a single motor, I believe that that would have a fairly dramatic impact on that commutator temperature.
Okay.
and you could adjust the impeller size to whatever effect you wanted.
The flow you needed, yeah.
If you had hoses big enough and a heat exchanger big enough elsewhere, that would actually do it.
Right.
And,
you can handle the
your
flow,
fan
yeah.
bringing in air can cool the stator and the rest of the rotor and so forth. It's but I was trying to figure out a way to get fluid through the shaft, right down the shaft. But and almost immediately you wind up with a pump.
Yeah.
On one end.
On one end, yeah.
And so let's just put a pump on the end of the net gain and make the aux shaft, mount the impeller on it, and I believe that with a big enough heat exchanger and fan elsewhere, that you would dramatically lower that commutator temperature
That would be cool.
by accident. And so we're going to take a look at that a little closer, maybe talk to
Lucian,
my
Okay.
enormous Polish friend.
okay. All right.
And, this is probably our last show for you and me, Brain, in video. I don't think we're going to have to do them anymore.
Who's going to do them?
Well, our viewers, we're
Oh,
just
good.
going to meet on Friday to introduce the various videos.
We just need an email, just a Dropbox for the videos.
No, yeah, well, no, I'm working on that. Marcus Reddish,
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, sure.
North Valley Systems of Stevensville, Montana, is our latest aspirant to be a conversion shop. And he's been talking to me about importing a Chinese AC motor that has been knocking around out there for 3 or 4 years. I actually bought one at one point. The guy never received them, and I had to go through the credit card company to get my money back.
Oh,
It was
okay.
on eBay and anyway, Marcus wants to import these motors and marry them with a controller being done by a fascinating guy in New Zealand.
Okay. All right. He's up in Montana. Okay.
The problem where we fall apart is he wants me to help him pay for it. Good luck, Marcus. When you get all that working, we'd be happy to
Yeah,
take a
we'll
look
do
at it.
something with it, yeah.
But he may be at EvCon with this motor and control.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And I hope he's here with this car because he teamed up with a guy there. What he actually does is renovate old trucks. I want to put up this photo of this truck. It's gorgeous.
Okay.
So he does these old trucks, but they're like big trucks, like fuel trucks and, that sort of thing, but from the 40s. And they'll go find them and do a complete renovation of them.
restoration of them. Oh,
Says
wow.
It's dirty work, but he makes pretty good,
Okay.
ducats from that because people just are
They
killing
love
for
those
them.
things,
And
yeah.
here's a photo of it.
That's pretty cool.
It is.
I mean, it really is. I bet there are people probably buy them, put them in museums, parades, do all. I mean, but it's interesting. You never would think about that.
He teamed up with a guy named Hioka Merrifield, who wins our Copper Helmet Award this week. We're
Okay.
going to send him a copper helmet.
All right. All right.
Copper foil helmet. But Hioka has got a whole lifestyle around living with the earth and being a good steward, and I can't fault any of that. And he's got he's an artist, and he
Yes,
has a
yeah.
studio and home that's out pretty deep in the wilds of Montana and kind of off grid.
Yeah, I think he's off the grid.
So he's be nice.
Be nice. No, in a positive way.
He's got a solar roof,
Yeah,
and so with an electric car, he's literally driving on sunshine.
driving on
And
sunshine.
so they call it the Sun Jag. They actually did a video, but they had a guy named Jason Gutzmer edit it.
Yeah.
I'd like to meet this guy. Here is video I can only aspire to. This is artwork. Let's take a look
Okay.
at the Sun Jag for 7 generations
All right.
with Hioka Merrifield and Marcus Reddish.
This land was undeveloped, so at first I lived without electricity, camping out in the gypsy wagon. I had lived off the grid on the Indian reservation for 14 years, and so living simply was familiar to me. The studio was built using straw bales for their environmentally friendly insulation. Most of the windows are in the south to take advantage of the winter sun heating the building with passive solar energy. When you build your own house, the process continues for many years. The project now is to generate electricity from the sun. I also plan to convert my 38 Jaguar to an electric vehicle for local trips to town on sun-powered batteries. Some of my first memories are of riding in the back seat of Lolly, my parents' 1937 Ford. I was born during the Second World War, and my military dad was training troops all over the western states. After the war, we settled in the little California town of Ojai, where at 7 years old, I had my first job selling newspapers. I started my first savings account to get a car, and by the time I was 16, I had enough to buy my first car. I see now that that was my coming of age ceremony, and it gave me the freedom to escape to the mountains or to the ocean. And my love affair of cars has lasted all my life. After college, I moved to the North Country in the pristine mountains. I began to understand how cars had really harmed the environment in California. In the northern mountains, I lived off the grid and without electricity, and I started making drawings of a sports car with an electric motor. My engineer friend said that it wouldn't work because the lead batteries are just too heavy. Years later, I started seeing articles about other people who had similar ideas and were converting cars to run on electricity with a range of 30 miles or more. Studies show that 50% of all trips are less than 20 miles, and 80% are less than 40 miles. When I decided to create my own electric car, I went online, and there was 2 or 3 of them for sale, these replicas. It was made on the East Coast. And the 100 SS was just my favorite car in the world as far as styling. Probably about 200 or 300 of them made, and they're very rare. And an original one, of course, this is a Volkswagen chassis with a fiberglass replica. And the Volkswagen chassis is a 69 Volkswagen. And the chassis is like one of the lightest weight for the strength of any car ever made. It's very, very durable. I mean, they make dune buggies out of them. They're very popular, and the old Volkswagens are so popular that it's still easy to get parts for them. Well, this body's made out of fiberglass, and so the original Volkswagen body was, of course, steel. And so really, the batteries did add some weight, but after we've taken that motor out, that was about 300 pounds, and then the gas tank that was filled with gas would be quite heavy, and then the body itself being much smaller and lighter. I think we're going to be pretty close to the original weight of the 69 Volkswagen.
The batteries are rated to put out 2,600 amps, which is a lot more than the controller can use. So it's really, even with the controllers at maximum and the engines at maximum, the batteries are just kind of tooling along, not having an issue. So and we did oversize the batteries for that reason, to both get long range durability and so that they wouldn't be stressed under racing type conditions. The Zilla is rated 1,000 amps. And with an approximate 100 volt system, that is 100 kilowatts of power. And a kilowatt is about 1.3 horsepower, so you're looking at 130 horsepower, more than double the original car. And but more importantly, the torque is almost should be right around 200 foot-pounds of torque, and that's almost triple the original car. So you've got double the horsepower, triple the torque, So you've got a lot more performance than you had originally with the combustion motor. And that torque is also available right out at 0 RPM. So as soon as you put your foot in it, there's no slip in the clutch and trying to get going, it just goes. For this system, the goal was long range. So the battery has 25 kilowatt hours of energy storage, and at 30 amp 110 service, it should recharge in a little over 8 hours. It should easily recharge within a night if you plug it in. Be ready the next day for another 100 and 150 miles. And 110 goes into this, and it converts it, 110 AC, and it converts it to 110 volt DC. And the batteries all add up. There's 30 batteries, and they charge up to 3.65 volts each. And that adds up to just under 110 volts DC. We also have a DC to DC converter. It takes that 110 volt DC and it takes it down to 12 volts, which the car system, the blinkers, the lights, the brake lights, the wipers, your stereo, that all runs off 12 volt, and just like it always did. And we have a lithium 12 volt battery here, so there's no lead in the car. This is an EV Power BMS, and that is a system that looks at each of these cell modules and monitors that the batteries are within their safe range. You don't want to drain the batteries too low, and you don't want to overcharge them. And as long as they're kept within that safe range, you can run 3,000 to 5,000 charge cycles through these batteries. So they have an incredible ability of longevity. Yeah, all the batteries are connected in series here, and they act as one 96 volt battery. Each battery has a capacity of 260 amp hours, which is quite large. These are some of the largest batteries that you can get. All the cabling is quadruple aught, called 4-aught cable. It's the largest size that you can buy for a welding cable, and that has virtually no loss in the energy coming from the batteries to get back to the controller and the motor. So we use this extra size cabling, and also the large size of the bolts that come on these batteries ensures that the energy gets to where it's supposed to be without any losses. And here we have the motor, and it is an advanced DC motor. It's a series wound motor, and it's known for producing very good low end torque. So the Zilla is the controller, and it takes the juice from the batteries and puts it into the motor, and it senses your throttle input, and that's our throttle input back here. It's called a potentiometer, and that senses how much you're pressing on the throttle pedal, and it distributes the energy to the motor to make the car go. Zilla puts out 1,000 amps is the rating, and it's on a air-cooled IGBT heatsink. We actually cut it in half. It was an enormous heatsink for in a server room, and it has dual 54mm computer fans on the back there that are a little bit difficult to see, and it also has a liquid cooling system. We have an aquarium pump and a small 12 volt pump, and we have a reservoir up here, radiator back here, and it has also has a computer cooling fan that's adjustable there. The airstream goes right into that, flows through that and cools it, and then it also has a fan, so if you were, let's say, stuck in traffic for more cooling or whatnot. This is a tachometer. It's a inductive proximity sensor, which basically just is electromagnet that senses anytime a ferrous object goes by it. And so we have this reluctor ring here that will rotate, and as it goes by this, it creates a pulse, just like your cylinder firing in a ignition system for gas. And that goes into the Zilla and into the tachometer, so the gauge on the dash works just like it always did. So the Zilla also limits the RPMs, and right now I can set it at whatever I want, but I have it set to just over 5,000 RPMs, just as a nice soft rev limit. So even if you put your foot on the pedal and left it there in neutral, it would only rev up to about 5,200 and just hold there. The really only maintenance part on this type of motor is the brushes, and those are what made contact with the rotor on the motor. Those do need to be changed periodically, maybe every 80,000 miles or so, but they're not I mean, it's a fairly simple operation, and it's not a major deal.
And I'm an artist by trade, so I had to put the lightning bolt in there because it's just part of the way I do things. The name is Sunjag, so I had to put a sun there. I want my little touch of artwork. Yeah, and there's my logo that I put in all my jewelry pieces: lightning bolt, the moon, and the star. So I consider this an art piece as well as a vehicle of transportation.
Definitely. When I got interested in really starting this project and getting a car and buying some batteries and things, I went online to see what was available, in information, and found out that there are hundreds of people all across the country converting cars. With the development of lithium batteries, the range is increasing, and we have designed our Sunjag to have a range of 100 miles. I studied the history of electric cars and saw that the technology had been obstructed by the predatory business practices because gas cars just produce larger profits. My Native American teachers have taught me that we must not do anything that will harm the children or their children for 7 generations. This is something that I can do. This is something I can personally do to make a change. We can do this from the grassroots. We can do this as a community of people wanting to do something better. But with the first drive in the Sunjag, it was well worth all the time and work. And the fact that I've connected mine to my solar cells on the roof, you're literally driving on the sun's energy. Driving in silence, producing no pollution, was a wonderful and liberating feeling. It reminds me of my youth and how much fun driving used to be.
Atlantis lies in the ocean deep, memories of Pangaea sleep, seed of the Maya and the Egyptian, flash forward with me if you can.
We got a car.
All right. As above, so below, the tides arrive in clockwork sets. Remember the future now, don't forget. Flash forward, flash back.
Now that is a nice video. It's a beautiful country up there too.
It's pretty.
Isn't it?
Number one,
Montana's
Montana's
nice.
pretty.
Yeah.
Number two, what's not to like about a 37 Jaguar,
That's right.
even if it's a replica?
Yeah, this
and
nice
this
car.
guy is like cruising through the country, dead silent,
Yep.
in this beautiful
Very
car,
nice, yeah.
running on sunshine. And what's not to like about all that?
Yeah.
But with the music and the the over narration,
Yeah, it was
and
really
some-
nice.
Hey, that's the kind of video we want you to send us.
It's
Send us those, we'll run them, and Brain and I will mostly be drinking wine and whiskey and smoking cigarettes and watching our viewers
make videos.
TV for us. But wait, there's more. Ron Popeil.
That's right. That's right. The Pocket Fisherman.
You betcha.
Set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it. Caleb Lander, Brewer, Maine. Come on down.
Yeah. All right. The price is right.
Robin's Egg 74 Super Beetle. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And he's picked him up a Soliton Jr. and a Hort 9 and some, the cow,
The cow.
SEs.
Yep.
It's going to be a great car. Can't wait to see it. It's going to be here at AvCon.
Oh, good. Okay.
Make it so.
My name is Caleb Lander. I'm from Brewer, Maine, way up in the northeast here. And I'm starting to put together my electric conversion. So behind me here is my 1974 Volkswagen Super Beetle. I've been working on it since early, when did we start?
June.
Middle July? Yeah. I started ordering things in June, but I didn't start working on it until July. So I've got almost everything in. At least in the shop right now, we've got our motor and controller, thanks to Rebirth Auto. So we've got a Soliton Jr. and a NetGain Warp 9 that I'll be putting into the Super Beetle. I also have 100 amp hour CALB cells, not the CA series, but the blue ones. If you can see down the side, I've also equipped the car with disc brakes to allow for better stopping. Even though it's going to be a little lighter, because I've removed a lot of the interior, I wanted to make sure that we had some performance brakes on there. So you can see from here, we've already tried out the motor inside the car, and it's a little tight, so we ended up cutting out part of the tail to fit the motor, and we'll be tacking that back in later once we've got it mounted up. Now we're just trying to figure out how we're going to mount the flywheel onto the motor and adapter plate, and then we'll be good to go. We'll start wiring it up. So that's the update from Brewer, Maine, and hopefully we'll see you at EVCON. You can follow the progress of the Beetle build for Brewer, Maine on landerelectric.blogspot.com. It's LANDER.blogspot.com.
That's nice. That'll be nice to see that car at the show, too.
Caleb, we think you're all over it, buddy.
Yeah, that's keep going.
You go, girlfriend.
Yeah.
Don't let me get in your way.
That's right. Just keep on coming.
That's right. Bring it on. Of course, Fisker burn up their car.
That's right. Yeah.
And I burn up my shop.
Yeah. There's always something burning up.
Can you imagine if that had gotten away and burned down the whole shop and everything in it, and we'd have been standing here.
Yeah.
This battery fire stuff, guys, is serious, and don't dismiss it out of hand. It's that's the fatal flaw in the BMSs. They're not the solution; they're the cause. It was in this case, even along with me being a dumbass, but that's a deadly combination. A BMS and a dumbass and some lithium iron phosphate, they're killer. So there you go. There's a guy that's putting them in a car, and this is a real application. Remember, I talked about how you could do an inexpensive lead acid cost battery pack. And if you would settle for a lead acid range, you might get some pretty stellar performance.
Some good performance, yeah.
Robin Wainwright in Calgary, Alberta, took a not that really pretty Porsche 944.
Okay. There's probably some not that pretty examples out there by now. Huh?
And put a Soliton 1 and a Warp 11 in it, and a pack of 3 parallel and maybe 42 A123 cells in the back, sort of clamped together the way we do, but without all the plastic and really anything containing them.
Oh, okay.
Got them in the back. It doesn't weigh butt, and
yeah, it shouldn't.
He sent me this walk around of the car, and I said, "Man, I'd sure like to see it go." And he sent it to me again with some go in it, and prediction came true.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
Hi everyone, this is Robin up in Calgary, Canada, electricporsche.ca. Here's just a quick walk around of my not quite complete but drivable Porsche 944 electric conversion. So you can see the Soliton 1 and Warp 11 HV. Factory air conditioning is reused, driving off the tail shaft of the motor. Vacuum pump, and I don't yet have the heater installed, and I still have to tidy up some wiring, but all a work in progress. You may notice the stock lead acid's still there, but that'll disappear as soon as I get the chance. Moving around the car. The charge port is simple 20 amp 240 volt, and I'm just using an extension cord off of 110. So there haven't been a lot of A123 builds documented yet. Lots of people are working with them and working on them, but thought I would share my progress and details of how the pack is working. It is a fully charged 149.5. It's going to drop down to about 145 quite quickly. That's just the surface charge. It's set up with the Soliton 1 for 1000 amp peak discharge, and it works very well with minimal sag. Moving to the inside of the car, I've tried to keep the interior as stock as possible. You can see all the factory gauges are still there. Some are repurposed for EV use, with the oil pressure showing battery current, and the temperature gauge is actually battery voltage for the moment. An Android tablet in the center console will be driven by the EMW Bluetooth hardware, which hasn't come in yet. The programming port for the Soliton 1 is behind the factory lighter socket. That's it for now. I'll try and do a drive later on to show just how well this works. Hi, this is Robin from Calgary, Canada, electricporsche.ca. This is just a quick drive and a test. First gear, pretty much useless. Second gear gives a little better range and less chance of breaking the tires loose. But third gear works the best of all.
That's not much to look at, but it's pretty fast.
He's going pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good clip.
I asked
That's,
for go, he go.
It goes pretty good. Those cells do put out some power.
And so you can see, and he doesn't have the cost of a lead acid pack in that pack.
Right, in that pack, it can't be.
And
yeah.
what's he got, 55 amp hours, that car? I'm guessing 25, 30 miles, which is what you're going to get on the lead acid. But the lead acid keeps going down, and he'll be able to keep doing that.
Yeah.
If he doesn't burn that car up into a smoking fireball, it should last, for years.
For years, that's right.
And,
They're powerful, though, man.
So, but in the meanwhile, when he steps on an accelerator, it got stepped on.
It moved.
And he can tell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That's a go fast car. Sleeper, you used to call them.
I've actually got a couple more, Brain. I'm going to call it.
Okay, yeah, there might be
let's-
some people asleep out there by now.
Let's push a couple to next week. I think we've got a full bag show there, and plenty of video, and I'm excited. The Pikes Peak race is a big deal.
That's a big deal.
I probably
yeah.
want to go next year, and we may
Okay.
take a car. And then that video from Montana, I'm in tears. I wish I could make video
That's
that
a
way.
nice video.
It
job.
was great. We've got some great guys doing great builds out there that I just can't. What did we push? Oh, Royce Wood did some stuff on his Bad Cat Cougar. He's got an RPM switch that's the key to his using an external pump on his automatic transmission. I'm going to push him until he gets to cover that a little bit. And Mark Bush, Bradley GT on the Laguna Seca Raceway, but the thing would hardly do 50 miles an hour. He's got an Azure Dynamics AC24 in it. He upgraded to lithium, and it works good.
It works, okay.
But it doesn't work very fast.
Really? Wow.
And
Okay.
but we may take a look at those next week.
All right.
Meanwhile, I'm digging it. We're getting better and more viewer videos, and eventually, what we did with Boardwatch Magazine, in my mind at the time, very consciously, was held out a mirror where you all could see each other.
Yeah.
And it
our readers
accelerated the
could-
pace of the development of the internet because one person working in one basement found out that somebody working over in another basement had a piece of the puzzle he
Right,
needed
right.
and was needing a piece of the puzzle he'd already done. And it just, in order to be able to see yourself in the mirror, when you start seeing other people doing builds, and we can only build so fast and increasingly
It's
so
a
slow.
little slower.
And so, if I could do a car a week, it would be different.
It'd be a different
But
story, yeah.
it never was going to be all about me. EVTV was always going to be about you. But it's like Boardwatch, I had to write every page of every issue starting out.
Right, for a while, yeah.
At the end, I was doing the editor's notes and letters to the editor. And it was all about the people that were building the internet. And our mission was not to distort the mirror, to hold it as flat as we could, and to provide views of the things that could be winners, that could help you.
Yeah, right.
And so it was an editorial selection of many things going on meant to represent and hold forth the best of, and for us not to twist the mirror any more than was humanly possible, given our own biases and opinions and so forth. So that's where we're going with EVTV in the end. We're going to be talking about components and tips and techniques you can use to build your car, but more importantly, we're going to be showing you people that are building cars and why that worked for them or why it didn't.
And don't forget, we have another opportunity for everybody to get together at the end of September at the EvCon. And this is,
Most of these guys are coming.
yeah, I mean, just everybody out there. Yeah, just
Royce
come
Wood's
on,
bringing
come on
the
down.
Cougar.
Yep.
Caleb Lander's bringing the Beetle. Michael Bream's coming. I don't know what he's bringing.
I don't know either. Yeah.
But the it's all these guys will be here, but that's EvCon is, you know, I mean, again, there's an egalitarian thread through the world that I'm not sympathetic to. I don't mind elitism at all. The players are going to be the ones coming to EvCon,
yeah.
and our world is split into two groups: the ones that have been to EvCon and the ones that haven't.
That's right.
And I'm sorry, the guys that I assume the guys that paid $595 went through the heroic logistics, more importantly, to get here,
just doing
and a
it,
week out of their lives and businesses so they could interact with each other and do an accelerated version of what we're doing. I mean, the bandwidth is huge when you're face to face, and there's 200 or 300 guys, all that are players.
Yeah, no, it's a unique experience.
Not just builders, but most of them want to be conversion shops or component sales or
just product designers.
Product designer. There's nobody at EvCon that doesn't have one of those three things in mind.
No,
I don't know. David Hrivnak, I would think, would be he bought a Tesla, he's built a couple cars.
Right.
I would think he'd be a builder. He's immediately went home and is trying to make a dual J1772 feed product to Eric Chris is one of the founders of Bain Capital.
Right. Yeah.
He's designed a little
to show you guys on the store.
You know, for the
for the Marinco.
NEMA 5-15, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know, and I would assume, I can only assume, that the people coming to the electric vehicle conversion conventions are players or plan to be in this space.
Yeah.
And it's okay just for you to go in your garage and build yourself a car. That's what we're about. But I mean, it's 100 to 1 for everybody that comes to EvCon. We've got 100 viewers.
Yeah.
I mean, regular viewers. And God, we love y'all, but there's two classes of people in this world, and that's the ones that have come and the ones that haven't.
The ones that haven't, yeah.
And that you know, I can't help not sort that out. I've stood there and drank a beer with the latter group.
Right.
That changes things.
Yep.
And so, you know, and most of them are contest winner with Brandon Hollinger.
Brandon Hollinger, sure.
I mean, he's done 3 or 4 builds now.
Yeah.
Is bringing 2 cars to EvCon, but he's got a conversion shop.
Right, in Pennsylvania,
In Pennsylvania, and has had some very bad experiences procuring components.
With some vendors, yeah.
Which puts him about a step away from starting to sell components.
Right.
And so these are people that are either wanting to develop a product for the EV space or wanting to sell components in the EV space as a retailer, or are wanting to have a conversion shop where they convert cars for other people. It's part of the dream. It's a kind of an extended part. But it's perfectly okay to build yourself a personal car for transportation, demonstrate to other people it's yeoman's work, you're changing the world. But out of that, there's going to be a subset of guys that just get eat up with it. Hey, I want to play.
Right. Yep, they want in.
I want to be an entrepreneur in that space, and I'm, you know, hell won't have it. You know, they're not going to take no or anything else. And what they want to know is who can help me? What's the quickest way to get there?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and so they get together and exchange information really in a fairly free and open fashion, because geographically they're not linked.
Right.
They can go home. They're not competing with a guy in Illinois.
No,
they're in Montana. You know, I mean, there is so, and they love to hear Wayne Alexander, one of our speakers.
Right.
And he's done what now, 160 or 170 conversions, doing the bus service or something now for a hotel chain.
Yeah, right. Electric buses.
And so everybody wants to get into that space. I'd love to have Randy from Canadian EV, but man doesn't like, he won't get on an airplane under any conditions. It's just not happening. And
It's a long
some
drive
people
here.
are like that, including our cameraman today. And so it's, I mean, you know, we do
the way of the
what we
world,
do.
huh? Yeah.
But that's essentially the case. Is most of these viewer videos are from people that want to play in the space. And we'll be at Electric Vehicle Conversion Convention. For the rest of you, God love you. I've had wives. I know about wives. As Brian can tell you, they're not as hard to get a new one as you think. But stay with her. You know, you can always.
She
come
says you
next
can't
year.
go. You always come next year. That's
right. By then you'll have a new wife, and it'll be different.
You hope.
You hope. And so there you go. But that's the way the world breaks down to me is two groups, and obviously the one I want to hear about their secret stuff is the guys developing stuff and starting businesses and wanting to start businesses and trying to find it. And I truly believe this is going to take off in an unbelievable fashion. But it's my second rodeo. I would think that. Who knows? Maybe it'll go the other way. And nobody will care about electric cars, and it's a passing fad that'll just fade away.
Oh, well. Yeah, right.
The problem is, I've been in one, and that's not going to happen.
That's right, it's not going to happen.
And everybody I know that's been in one would agree. It's not going away. Getting from A to B, well, that could go a bunch of different ways, but it's not going to turn around and go from B back to A. That dog isn't going to happen.
It's not going to work, no.
Yeah.
We're good now.
Mark, what's his name, the wine guy up in Maryland?
Oh, Eamon. Mark Eamon.
Mark Eamon. What's the payback period on the electric car?
Oh,
6.5
seconds, that's right.
More or less?
That's right, depends.
It depends on the car. We'll stay with us. We're going to try to do this again next week, but it's going to be less us and more you. And I think that's good for me. See you later. Keep them coming.
All right, until next week.